being the CEO of everything gay, there is a lot of responsibility, right? I'm preserving gay institutions like the Abbey and like Fire Island, and you want to preserve what's there, but also kind of have to evolve it a little bit because it has to sustain itself for the future generations. So the downside of owning everything is that I'm always working. The great part of it is it's not bad to be at the Abbey or in Fire Island, quote, working.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Uncloseted with me, Spencer Macnaughton. Today, I'm here with Tristan Schukraft, the so-called CEO of Everything Gay. Tristan is the founder of MISTR, a major LGBTQ telehealth platform providing online access to PrEP, STI testing, and HIV care. And he also owns a number of iconic queer spaces like the Abbey in West Hollywood, Tryst Hotels, and most recently, property in the Fire Island Pines. Tristan, thanks so much for sitting down and speaking with me and Uncloseted Media today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think you got it all.
I think I got it all. I did my best there. Before we start, full disclosure to our audience members, we are partners on healthcare storytelling here, MISTR and Uncloseted Media. But yeah, let's get right into it. So I think a lot of people in the LGBTQ community kind of know you as this force. And they're like, he kind of seems to have his hands on everything, right? How would you describe what you do?
Well, I mean, my biggest project is MISTR. I mean, that I started MISTR 8 years ago with the objective of ending HIV. I was trying to help friends get on PrEP. There was all of these challenges, and it was like 10 friends became 100 friends, and I was like, okay, this is more than a pet project. This is a full-time job. And I'm happy to say we have 800,000 patients now, and really for the first time in a generation, we can into HIV. That was my motivation with MISTR and how I got started in telehealth and HIV prevention and care. And hospitality was just kind of one of those, watched the birdcage many years ago. I'm right here on the beach. I bought this hotel 3-4 years ago. It has not gone under renovation yet here in Puerto Rico, but it was kind of like, it's going to be my retirement project. Hotel on the gay beach and, drink cocktails all day. But shortly after I bought this hotel, the Abbey became for sale. And I thought, that can't go into the hands of a conglomerate, or worse, be bulldozed and built condos. So I bought the Abbey. Then it was Fire Island, then Crown and Anchor, and expanding Tryst Hotels to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And so I don't know how I found myself here, but that's what I do. Part of my day is focus on HIV prevention and care, and the other half is on nightlife and preserving queer institutions.
I think a lot of people know, how did you become, I guess, this force? How did you make your money, really?
I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. My very first company, I started when I was 21 doing e-ticketing for the airline industry. I did that for like 15 years. I made various investments. To start my first company, I was selling Razor scooters out of the back of my pickup truck. So it was not an easy road to get here. And actually, when I started MISTR, I put money into it, of course, and then I put more money into it, of course, and more, and I thought, oh my God, what did I do? I just it's this bottomless money pit, right? But now it's sustainable, which is great, and its mission is, what I started it to do is great, and yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I like taking risk, and I always try to take calculated risk.
Mm-hmm. So it's not family money. It's like you really are independently created this for yourself.
No, I wish it was family money. I always say the only thing better than new money is old money. I envy those people that had the silver spoon. That was not my case. When I started my first company, my parents baited me and said, well, listen, we think I was living in Hong Kong at the time. And they said, we really like that idea for a company, but we'll give you a $10,000 loan, but you have to come back to the U.S. And $10,000 wasn't enough. So I imported 457 Razor scooters. Thought I was going to sell out of these things in like 2 weeks. But I went to every swap meet, every school, office building, strip mall, anywhere I could do to get rid of these scooters. And I sold the last 6 on Christmas Eve. And I learned my first valuable lesson on inventory. Mm-hmm. I bought every color Razor scooter when really everybody just wanted red, blue, and black. So the 6 yellow ones were the last ones I sold.
And ID90, the e-ticketing company, was that the one that took you to the next level kind of thing? Because I think I read something that you now have 100 companies in your portfolio. Is that accurate?
I have 68 companies in my portfolio. But yes, ID90 was my big first success. Um, it started off like a travel booking engine, right? Like an Expedia for airline personnel. But then there was this 100% e-ticketing mandate. And I said, wow, they're trying to solve this problem. And I thought, instead of everyone changing the way they communicate, why don't you build like a communicator, in the middle, a router. And so that's how I got into that business. That's how I got into, Tryst Hotels. I go to the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton. It was really nice luxury experience, but there's no music by the pool, right? Maybe there's no protein bars or electrolytes in the
It's not giving gay.
in the mini bar. It's not giving gay. Even worse, there's no shower wand in the bathroom. So
Right.
I'm like, you know what? I could do this better, and that's kind of been my driver with a lot of my businesses. And my partner and my boyfriend, so I say, this sucks. We could do this so much better. And he goes, baby, do you really need another job? And I'm like, no.
And, I used to work at the Wall Street Journal, so I'm really kind of like to nerd out on this, especially kind of as an entrepreneur myself. And I think as queer people, we don't talk about kind of, business acumen, I think, as much as we should. Like, what is your advice for either entrepreneurs or for managers, leaders?
Well, efficiency, right? I mean, I can't be everywhere. I mean, people, when I bought the Abbey, everybody thought, oh, you're going to move to LA. No, I'm not moving to LA. So you got to have really good talent. Whenever there's a problem, I don't want to throw more people at it. I want to really figure out what the problem is and see if we can automate it. I think my motto or my objective was like technology, leverage technology, make money while I sleep, right? That's the key thing. And when you're looking at a business and you say, okay, I can make X amount of dollars if I have 100 people sign up, cut that in half, and can you still make money, right? And if you can, then that's a good business. But I think efficiency, hiring great people, and really finding a need, right? Every business I've gotten into is because I'm like, they're not doing this right. You could say that there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hotels around the world, but I would argue that there's no luxury hotel chain in the world. In our hotels, you're going to hear Lady Gaga and Dua Lipa, Madonna in the lobby, right? You can wear your thong at the pool. If you check in with 3 people in one bed, we're not going to say anything. So you might have a luxury experience at the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton or whatnot, but you're not going to get that type of atmosphere.
What have you learned about managing people and treating people who are, technically they're reporting to you? What any kind of big takeaways you found through all your years of doing this?
Yes. Number one, everybody on your team has to believe in your vision, right? I remember years ago, my first company, ID90, there was somebody and he's like, we can't go to Delta Airlines. We're not big enough. And I thought, wait, you gotta have that confidence. You gotta believe. And I should have cut them loose and I didn't. But so number one, people got to be drinking your Kool-Aid, right? And if they're not, cut them loose. I have so many people, 68 companies, 1,500 employees throughout the world, right? I got to be able to say, delegate. And sometimes employees don't always agree with with your decision. And they have to be able to accept that because at the end of the day, I'm in charge, right?
And I would not be a good journalist if I didn't answer all the questions the gays have rumblings about. People say you're a billionaire from all of this. Is that an accurate statement? Are you able
That's
to
a fair
comment?
and accurate statement.
Wow. And a lot of this, I think, is interesting and inspiring to other people is that, people call you the CEO of everything gay because you've made a big mission to make a lot of your portfolio focused on, LGBTQ businesses. Do you like when people call you the CEO of everything gay?
I do like it. I think some people thought that I named myself that, but it was actually a journalist. I think it was the Washington Blade. And the next day, the article came out, and I'm like, "What did I do during that article, that interview? What a great headline!" And then other media outlets like took it and ran with it, and so now it is a great title. Being the CEO of everything gay, there is a lot of responsibility, right? I'm preserving gay institutions like the Abbey and like Fire Island, and you want to preserve what's there, but also kind of have to evolve it a little bit because it has to sustain itself for the future generations. And it's a lot of fun, but kind of the downside of owning all of these businesses is I'm working 7 days a week. When I'm at the Abbey, I'm having a good time, but I'm also looking like, why is that glass half empty? What's that ladder over there? So the downside of owning everything is that I'm always working. The great side. The great part of it is it's not bad to be at the Abbey or in Fire Island, quote, working. But it is a heavy responsibility. I mean, let's just say I go bankrupt tomorrow. I mean, look at all those institutions that would be at risk. So making sure that they're profitable, making sure we don't do anything to kind of change the overall feel of those destinations, right?
And a lot of people, have said, in the Pines and different places, you face criticism, right, for coming in and essentially buying everything and taking it over. What are the biggest critiques you faced? Because as somebody who owns 68 different organizations and coming into these kind of, iconic cultural destinations, I'm sure people come for you sometimes.
That's the one thing about gays, which is terrible. Like you look at other minority groups and they all kind of like gather and support each other. Gays just love to tear people down. So like I come into a place and I'm Fire Island has not had any money invested in it in years. Like I thought, okay, we're going to do this and do that. And I was a little quick with my inspection because it was the middle of winter and I was not prepared for how cold Fire Island is in December. I'm like, I don't recall that wall being so crooked when I did my inspection. I mean, that place really eventually will be torn down and completely rebuilt, right? But with that said, we're trying to preserve the floor of the Blue Whale. But you do have those naysayers that kind of want you to fail. And then I think, why do you want me to fail? Because if I fail, then the thing that you love going and seeing and spending time at every summer is going to be gone. So
why do you think they want you to fail?
I don't know. It's just a unfortunate, a negative aspect of gay culture where I think people see somebody succeeding and they want to kind of tear you down. Misery loves company, right? And I think people in Fire Island, we have staff housing where you have 2 people sharing 80 square feet of living space, 4 people sharing a 40 square foot bathroom. I want to spend $3 million tearing it down and rebuilding it. That is a terrible investment, right? I mean, I'm never going to get my money out of that, with the exception of hopefully good, hardworking employees. And it's shocking to me that people in Fire Island, and it's a small, tiny minority that are against this, right? It doesn't impact them whatsoever. And my thought is, here's somebody that is willing to put money not only into the pavilion, the Blue Whale, and the infrastructure that everybody enjoys, but also staff housing, which a lot of people aren't going to see, except for the 100 employees plus or minus that we have working there all season. And my favorite is when they say, 80 square feet is enough for 2 people. And I think, how big is your home? 1,200 square feet? Shut up and sit down. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And just to stay out on Fire Island quickly, I was there last weekend. People are annoyed.
Are they annoyed?
They're a little annoyed. Yes. I from the hotel not being done there, right? They're like, it was supposed to be done at the beginning of this summer. Where is it? So can you provide those listening with an update?
Yeah, it is not by any lack of enthusiasm on our part. It is very frustrating. When I went there, everybody said, we're going to get these permits to you in weeks. But you have a lot of different organizations there. It is a natural reserve. It's in a floodplain. You got the state, you got the city or the town. And so, that whole New York Minute thing, I don't believe in it anymore. I think it's a falsehood. It's just a matter of permits. It's some people say, I ran out of money. I did not run out of money. I'm not changed my mind about doing it. It is really permits. I mean, I have doors and windows and all sorts of other building materials sitting in a warehouse in Long Island for over a year. We got the construction documents, everything, but we don't have the permit. And I think I don't know if you've seen our contractors on site, but they're just shaking their ass in those windows. I mean, that's another problem. They're just not working hard enough.
And the question that everyone was asking, when do we expect doors open? People can go in and stay at that hotel.
I'm pretty confident next season. So we're getting very close, but there's so many moving parts. If I literally wanted to open up the hotel and put some paint on it, we could have had it open a while ago, but that's not my intention. Tryst is a 5-star luxury brand, and I'm building something that will last generations.
Cool. Want to pivot to your personal story. I read that you kind of, I think in your late teens, kind of came out to your parents in a teary scene in a garage where kind of your dad was worried it would be harder for you to get a job. Your mom was worried you would get AIDS and die, I think is what I read.
Yeah.
What was your kind of experience coming to terms with your sexual orientation when you were younger, growing up?
I came out in 97, so 30 years ago. I used to live in Amsterdam. That's where I was with my first relationship. And I came home and told my parents, I'm gay. And it's been 30 years. But yes, late 90s is when I came out. Maybe I would have known. I remember my first job at Taco Bell. I remember giving this guy, Eric, who I was like in love with, free soda every time he came in. So I definitely knew before I came out at 18, but it was really 17 turning 18.
After that scene in the garage, were your parents kind of chill after that, or was it difficult?
No, I mean, my parents were very, very supportive. My mother died shortly thereafter, and we're going through the attic, and she had like rainbow flags. She would put a flag outside for every holiday. But when people say I had a terrible childhood growing up and I didn't get enough love, or my parents kicked me out for being gay, I can't imagine, because I had a great childhood.
And yeah, I resonate with that. You got involved very heavily, obviously, in fighting to end HIV and AIDS. Is there personal connections? Like, I feel like you can't do something like this in the way that you do it without a deep inherent personal connection too.
Well, it was 97. I was living in Amsterdam. My boyfriend, I was actually in a throuple. That was my first relationship. And they were older, right? They were 32, 33. And so they had friends that had HIV, AIDS, and one of their friends died. And so, I was young. I mean, it was kind of scary. I remember going to the hospital, and in Holland, you do 3 kisses, right? There was so much misinformation at that time too. It was like, if you share a toothbrush, if you kiss, all that stuff. I mean, I was terrified of getting HIV. And I think if it wasn't for them, I would have gotten it, because they educated me on so many things. That's really what motivated me. I think for the first time in a generation, seeing this people, their friends and our friends that we hung out with, terrified of dying. I mean, they were selling their life insurance policies, quitting their jobs, and traveling the world because they knew they only had a short time to live. But right around that same time, the medication started working, and then they started living. But with PrEP, if you're negative and you're taking PrEP, and if you're positive and you're virally suppressed, I mean, you could really eliminate. And that's what motivated me. I think for the first time in a generation, we really have a viable opportunity to end HIV, which we didn't have before. And we lost a whole generation of people, not just people, but of talents.
And yeah, I agree. I think it's like, incredible that we have the tools now to essentially end the epidemic. But let's talk about HIV under Trump 2.0. We did an investigation last June about the staggering scale of the administration's HIV cuts, which amounted to over $1 billion from the National Institutes of Health, and more from other agencies at the time. We also found that mathematical models indicate that the worst case scenario of the Trump administration's HIV-related cuts could result in 3 million deaths and an infection rate outpacing the virus's peak in the 1990s. What are your thoughts on what the administration has done as it relates to cuts for HIV and AIDS?
Well, in Trump's first administration, he was the president that allocated the most HIV funding domestically, with the goal of ending it in 2030. So it is disheartening. I don't know who put that bug in his ear, but they did. And we're on a great path. And now in the second term, every dollar that's cut has an impact, right? Whether it's money allocated to education or prevention, or treatment and care. You have up to 16,000 people that are going to lose their insurance coverage. If you lose your insurance coverage, you don't have the money to pay, for your drugs.
But I'm surprised you say disheartening. Like, I would imagine if I were the head of HIV, of PrEP, and one of the leaders in the country, I would have stronger words for Trump right now. I mean, what would you say to him right now if you could speak with him?
Let me help you be the first president to end HIV in America. I can pitch it as multiple ways, right? This makes financial sense for the country. This is a human rights issue. I mean, there's so many reasons why ending HIV should be at the top of your priority list, and we can make it happen.
And when you say you don't know who put the bug in his ear, I interviewed Dr. Dimitri Daskalakis the other day, who's head up in HIV research, and he left the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention because he didn't think that the organization was reflecting science anymore. Another thing he said is that he heard people in the administration saying, we don't want to fund HIV. It's, quote, too woke.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, there's nothing woke. Again, HIV is not a gay disease, right? It's not, it's very similar to that same politician could say, oh my God, HIV is woke, being gay is woke until they're personally infected, right? And maybe that's what it takes to wake them up.
And I think one thing I'd be remiss not to talk about is that, like, the people who are most vulnerable are affected by a lot of these cuts. That would be queer people of color in the Bible Belt, in low income areas, in red and rural states. Do you agree with that? Is that kind of how this is playing out?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're relying on your state to provide health insurance subsidies, which we do at MISTR as well, actually, we don't turn anyone away. I mean, that's one thing. We're the only telemedicine provider where 70% of our patients are insured, 30% are uninsured. But those people that are most affected, those most vulnerable people, I would say, is anyone who's at risk of HIV is going to be impacted by any budget cuts or changes to policy.
And I read that MISTR makes some of its money through fees paid by nonprofits through a government program that subsidizes the cost of HIV prevention drugs, but that the company could soon face challenges as Congress considers changes to the program. Has that affected MISTR yet? Is it going to?
We represent, 65 community-based health organizations across the country, which essentially kind of outsourced their online PrEP program to us. And it is a great program. It doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. So it's really a win-win. But yes, there's changes to policy and budget cuts are constantly under threat. And that's why, speaking about Trump, I mean, he could wake up today and change his mind about something and it has a huge domino effect, right? And by lunchtime, he changed his mind again, maybe in the other direction. So, yeah, it's challenging.
I'm sure, to say the least, I'm sure. I love the Real Housewives, and I love that you brought the Real Housewives to Congress. You had, I think, 7 of them storm in to speak about the importance of HIV prevention, HIV funding. Why did you do that?
Go into Washington in a very combative state, or you can woo them with star power. And that's what we did. And I said, if I can get 7 housewives to agree on one thing, I think we have a lot of hope for Congress, right? I want to come back as a housewife in my next life because they're like rock stars. I mean, it was like the seas parted when they were walking down the halls of Congress. And so if that's what it takes to get you to come and listen to my spiel, and put HIV prevention and long-term HIV care on your radar and make it a priority for you, that's what I'm going to do.
Was it a win? Was it a smart thing to do?
I think it was a huge win. Yeah, it was packed. We couldn't get enough people in there. And it was people from both parties. It was really well received and written about. And that's the whole point, right? I mean, you want to get exposure.
I love it. A fun pivot for me, at least, because I'm fascinated. Okay, let me get it right. You have 6 boyfriends.
I do have 6 boyfriends.
6
yes.
boyfriends. We met in person about 2 months ago, and for some reason, thought, oh, you probably wouldn't talk about this publicly, but you do. Describe that for my mom, who's going to hear this and be like, what do you mean you have 6 boyfriends? Like, who doesn't even know what a throuple is? How do you explain this?
This is how I got in the hotel business, actually. It was cheaper than paying all their rent. But no, yeah, it's basically, I think people have misconception is like, I'm dating six different guys, but we're actually in non-traditional, I guess, relationships, committed relationships. So my fiance and I have a boyfriend. It's basically 3 thruples, okay? So it's like an SAT question here. But my fiance and I have a boyfriend, and then my other 2 boyfriends were a couple before we became a throuple. So I was the third in that equation. And we've known each other for many, many years, and we're friends. And then one thing led to another, and now we're a throuple. And then I had my other boyfriend, and then all of a sudden I met Victor, and I actually a year ago. So we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, and in Fire Island. And I said, do you have any plants at home? And he goes, yes, why? And I'm like, they're all going to die because I'm never sending you home again.
Aww.
So all of a sudden he came into what we call the familia, right? All my boyfriends are Latino, but we all live together. We have different rules, but it's not like, everyone's sleeping with everyone. We don't sleep in one bed. Can you imagine how big that bed would be? But we live together, we travel together, and yeah, essentially it's three thruples coexisting in one big happy family.
Okay, I have a few more follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Does
It's a
everyone
lot to digest.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest. Does everyone hook up with everyone?
No, that's what everybody thinks. No, I mean it's
No.
basically each thruple.
Each
right?
throuple. Okay, so you don't hook up with all five of them.
Oh, I do. Yes,
You
but
do.
I'm the
Okay.
key in each. I'm part of each thruple, right?
Okay,
So
you're at like the top of the diagram.
yeah, I'm at the top of the diagram. Then
Okay.
there's two, and then there's two, and then there's two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the next question I have is there not like interpersonal jealousy that can become a hotter mess than any housewife show?
It would be a good reality show, but there's no jealousy. But like any relationship, your partner pisses you off. So yeah, there's a lot of love, and sometimes there's pissed off people, but for the most part, we're really happy all the time.
Do you worry any of them are coming for your money ever? Is that like a thing?
There's definitely people out there that want to be a boyfriend for that purpose, right? I mean, there's a line like, what do I have to do to be a boyfriend? I'm like, we're not accepting any more applications at the moment. You know what I mean? It is one cohesive family unit. I mean, I don't know, it wasn't something I was looking for, like, oh, I want 6 boyfriends. It was like one thing led to another, and we're together all the time, and it wouldn't work if all the personalities didn't really gel. And yeah, I don't worry about that. But years ago, I met somebody, and I said, does it bother you all these guys are hanging out with you because you have your money? And then he said, does it bother you that I'm hanging out with you because you're cute? And I'm like, no, I guess everybody has something.
So everyone
Right?
win. And obviously this is like fun to talk about, but we did a story 2 months ago on the lack of legal protections for polyamorous people, right? And the reporter talked to experts being like, you have to think about this world. It's made, sidewalks are even made for 2 people. Everything is created for like 2 people in relationships. What are the things that make your life as what do we call it? Like a 6-pack? Like, I don't know what to call it, right?
I don't know. Like a soccer team checking into a hotel,
Right.
It's,
but are there barriers? Like, what's the stigma like? There's got to be stigma associated with this to a certain extent.
I kind of, maybe I get this from my mother, is like, if you don't like it, great, I don't care. I used to kind of keep it like under wraps, but then I think when you're having a conversation with somebody and you're kind of like suppressing parts of your life because you're worried about, like, oh my God, are they going to accept me for just being gay? Then you don't really have an authentic connection. The more you share, the more authentic of a connection you're going to have. And then you might inspire other people who are afraid to talk about it, or been curious about it. Right. So,
well, you mentioned to me when we met in person that tell the audience the story about Hillary Clinton, because that to me is one of the most iconic things I heard in Pride Month.
Oh yeah. So we were with the Clintons a couple days earlier, and these are my boyfriends. These are not tricks, right? This is like my family. And so, okay, you get a picture with Hillary and Bill. And I said, well, I have like 6 boyfriends, right? But I said, I'd love to do a photo, but then all my boyfriends have to be in the photo, right? And they agreed to that. I was with the mayor of Rio in Brazil, and I said, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And I said, this is my boyfriend. And this is my boyfriend, this is my boyfriend. And then he goes, wait a minute, I just want to make sure I'm following this. Do you have 4 boyfriends? And I go, I have 6. He goes, oh my God, are they all here? And I said, yes. He goes, let's get a picture.
I love it. I love it. Already 2 amazing scenes of the reality TV show that's to come. 2 more quick questions. One, as I mentioned, I'd be remiss to ask. Obviously, you own all these bars, all these different locations. There have been a lot of headlines about the Abbey. Obviously, Lisa Rinna, a fellow Real Housewife, right, has made allegations that she was drugged at the Abbey, that it's a consistent pattern, and she's actually calling for the bar to be shut down. The Abbey has responded, completely denying these allegations, saying you checked the security footage. There was nothing to corroborate what Lisa Rinna said. Should people feel safe going to the Abbey right now? And if so, why?
Yeah, they should feel very safe going to the Abbey. There's TikTok videos, the most dangerous bar in America. We have 14 security guards on duty, undercover, armed, unarmed. We have security cameras throughout this space. Drink spiking is a thing that is a problem nationwide. I mean, the California state passed a law saying that bars have to provide test strips for purchase at their bars. We provide them for free. We provide lids. If you feel for whatever reason your drink was spiked, you can get a new one, no questions asked. Lisa, I think it's really irresponsible of her on multiple levels. She came to us concerned. We checked the video footage. We shared it with her team. They were satisfied with that investigation. And then 30 days later, she, on a Good Morning New York, she comes out with this accusation. And the Abbey's not just a bar. It's a cultural institution. It's a safe space for the queer community. And that's why I bought it, right? That was my motivation. So when you have a housewife or anyone really that is making these accusations without real substance, right? And what I will say, for the purpose of getting some exposure, is really shameless, right? And then taking it one step further, saying we should close this bar. Unlike Lisa, who can go to any bar and feel very comfortable in the world, right? Even more so because she's a celebrity. We, as a gay community, do not have that. This is our safe space. And for you to sit there and say we advocate that we should close it down you're nothing short than a bully.
Fair enough. And
I have other words, but
what do you? I mean, she went last week and did another one that's going viral, right? Like, what do you want her to do right now?
Well, we've encouraged dialogue with Lisa, and we reached out and said this individual that she referenced in her TikTok, who is that? Let us know so we can do the investigation. And so we've reached out to establish dialogue. That invitation has not been accepted.
Mm-hmm. And last question, when Tristan, you have, quiet time and you're just able to be in between your ears to yourself, like you're the CEO of everything gay, you're flashy, you're everything, you have 68 businesses, right? Like, what do you think about when you think about legacy?
I think I'm lucky. I have two legacies here, right? I'm hopefully helping to eliminate HIV. If not, I've eliminated a lot of people from getting HIV. And then on the hospitality side, to create hotels where people can be themselves and experience different parts of the world and cultures, and then preserving queer institutions like Crown and Anchor, Fire Island, Abbey. I think my legacy, if ending HIV is that, oh my God, a huge legacy. Preserving queer spaces, another huge legacy. Both would be great. One of those would be great. Making a dent in either one of those initiatives is also great.
So you have obviously MISTR, you're a huge space in the HIV and AIDS kind of world. What's next for you guys? What are you looking forward to?
Well, everybody knows this for PrEP, and that is definitely our big focus, PrEP. But we also do long-term HIV care. Now we just introduced ED, where our prices are 49% cheaper than anywhere else in the market. But really, we want to continue to build on what we've done by making your sexual health, stigma free, right? I mean, when I started MISTR, it was like Truvada whore, cum dumpster. None of that happens anymore. Everyone is, PrEP is socially acceptable, and we want to continue building upon that with our ED and long-term HIV care.
Would you ever veer deeper into being a competitor for something like Hims? I was mentioning, I got my hairline restored in Turkey. I know there's a massive market for things like Propecia, Minoxidil. Would you go there, or that's not your space?
Yeah, no, that's our space. Everything to do with gay men's health and wellness, we want to do. And by the way, I got my hair done too. I didn't do it in Turkey, but is it not amazing?
It's great. But what I'm hearing with MISTR is you want to expand it to like focus on all things gay men's health. So that could be hair, that could be ED, that could be peptide steroids.
Yeah,
these types
absolutely.
Of things.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. I think that's all I have. Tristan Schukraft, the CEO of MISTR, and I believe 67 other companies. Thanks so much for speaking with me on Uncloseted Media today. And to get all our podcast episodes, you can go to unclosetedmedia.com, subscribe to our YouTube page, or listen wherever you get your podcasts.